The Jacobs Ladder Show, the international internet broadcast online interview talk radio show, exploring ladders of success with Carolyn and Stephen Jacobs. Broadcast live from fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, every Tuesday from 1 to 3 p.m., featuring one guest per hour. Each guest tells us their life story with a one-on-one interview with either Carolyn or Stephen Jacobs. Featured guests include singers, dancers, musicians, entertainers, and entrepreneurs on their ladders of success. Now, here's Carolyn and Stephen Jacobs.
And welcome to the Jacobs Ladder Show. This is Stephen Jacobs, and we're here every Tuesday from 1 until 3, one guest for 1 hour. Carolyn does one, I do the other. We'd like to take a brief moment here to give a shout out. The Jacobs Ladder Show theme music is a great jazz original composition entitled Go With It by jazz composer, arranger, and trumpeter David Perico and his Pop Evolution Orchestra. Thank you, David Perico and Pop Evolution. Ms. Carolyn, who have you got today?
Well, I'm so excited to have this gentleman because he's also tall, like Stephen and I. He's tall, he's gorgeous, he's very handsome. He's a professional stage performer for over 35 years. He's an MC and announcer here in Vegas, does a lot of works with a lot of different casinos. He's an actor as well as a voiceover actor. Welcome to our show, Ron Smith.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here today.
Oh, I love the voice. And for our listening audience around the world, I know if you're listening to this, yes, he is tall and handsome. But for those, in about a week, we'll have our YouTube up so you get a chance to actually look at the man. Now, you have been working around town. You're also working in a group with your wife, and we're going to discuss that as well, and been at the Smith Center and performing things. But how we like to start our show is, where were you born?
I was actually born in Fort Knox, Kentucky. I always consider myself a golden child. I was born in the gold bin, not really, but and then I was military since it was Fort Knox, and we moved to Germany when I was 9 weeks old. And then came back to the States just before I turned 5.
Oh, my gosh. So as a child, you're in Germany.
I was in Germany. Wow. I have very, very few memories of Germany, but it seems like the performance has been in me ever since the beginning, because my mom talks about Sundays we would go to the Officers Club after church, and they would have music playing, and anytime they would play The Twist, or any of that music, I would hop up at like 2 years old and get on the dance floor with all the adults and just start twisting away and going to town. And of course, everybody'd stop and watch me. So it's obviously in my blood from the beginning.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. Then how did you get back to Georgia?
So we moved back. My father retired from the military. We moved to Colorado for a short time. Okay. And then one of his Army buddies worked at the University of Georgia in Athens, and we moved there. And that's still our family home. We've had the house in Athens for 50 years.
Wow.
Yeah, that's where I grew up. And
well, I knew your formative years were there as going to school. So let's talk a little bit about we know what your dad did. What did your mom do?
My mom was one of the best moms ever. She was a mom. She was a mom, but she was also a military wife.
Yes.
So anybody who has been around a military family or anything like that, because with my oldest brother, they were stationed in Panama. With my middle brother, they were stationed in Turkey. And with me, they were stationed in Germany. So many traveled the world with the military, and a longtime military wife. So she wasn't strict, a great Santini type of, but we definitely had our things. She had everything together. She budgets, and she ran the house. The house was cleaned every day, Southern living type of place to come into, and just loved us so much and took care of us and made sure that we had a great upbringing, she and my dad.
Oh, that's great. It sounds like she was very supportive of you, too.
Definitely.
And your siblings?
My oldest brother actually lives in Athens. He had been living with my parents in Athens. He moved back with them a few years ago to help take care of them a little bit. Nice. And my father passed away a few years ago. My mother just passed away this summer. So it's a little bit of a change for my brother. He's still in the house by himself now. But he was a therapist, counselor and therapist. And my middle brother is an infectious disease doctor in Augusta, Georgia. He was over with Desert Storm. He works with the government. He works with CDC.
Wow.
He's an amazing doctor, and has a wonderful family, 4 kids, and they're growing up well.
So you're the only musical one of the family?
I'm the only one, kind of. Each of my brothers had sung at some time for a little bit, but I'm the only one who stuck with it. And again, from an early age, I kind of realized this is something I would like to do. The Six Flags Over Georgia in Atlanta, Georgia, opened in 1967. My oldest brother was one of the first employees there.
Oh.
And my middle brother Craig was in the Boy Scouts at that time, and they were going to take a trip when Six Flags first opened, and my mom was a chaperone, so I got to go along too. And we went to the Crystal Pistol, which was the kind of review show.
Okay.
Old-fashioned saloon-type setup and everything. And sitting there watching that show and the performers singing and dancing and having a great time up there, I told my mom, and again, I was about 6 years old, maybe 7 at this time. I told my mom, I'm going to be up there someday. And 10 years later, I was up on that stage for 3 years. Yeah.
So you started working there about 16?
I actually started working there at 18.
Okay.
So a little over 10 years.
Okay.
But yeah, I was there for 3 years. Got to perform 3 years there, and it was wonderful. I mean, it was anywhere from 5 to 7 shows a day because they're like half-hour shows. So it was a lot of work.
Wow.
Yeah, but also at that point in time, they put so much money into the costuming. I mean, some of our costumes were Bill Blass designed costumes, and just hundreds of thousands of dollars put into them. And our stages, we had one of our shows, we had a treadmill, a moving treadmill that we danced on and moved on, and we had periactals behind us. And these are 3-sided structures that would turn for each of the phases of our show. So it was a different look behind there. So they put so much money into everything, and I'm just so happy that I could have been a part of that.
Now, that's amazing because obviously for you to get this job, you had to have some training. So when you're in school, did you have private lessons or you learned through chorus? Or?
Did church choir growing up, did chorus and chorale in high school.
Yes.
We had a local community acting theater called Athens Creative Theater, and I performed with them. And even from the beginning, most of the time, anytime I performed, it was musicals. I did a couple of straight plays and such, but everything was musicals. I mean, with the Athens Creative Theater, I was Bernardo in the West Side Story, so I was a good guy then. And but no formal training per se. I played piano and organ when I was little because you got to do some kind of musical instrument. And of course, now I wish that I had kept that up those years ago. And of course, as a kid, you don't want to keep up those rehearsals.
No, so you really had a natural talent then.
I think
because you have great presence on stage.
Oh, thank you. Well, again, after all of these years, and I've done some studying over the years. I've had some private lessons, both in singing and acting. For a while, I was a dance major at the University of Georgia. So, and then just being out there and doing it, and reading books and different things, and taking what works for me and continue to develop. I'm very lucky. I have a very supportive wife with Lisa, and just in these last few years, through her assistance also, I feel that my voice has opened up even more. I was always a basso profundo, so I was the deep bass. And then, unfortunately, with musical theater, there's not too many roles as a basso. I've done Caiaphas, I've done Judd in Oklahoma, and Jesus Christ Superstar for Caiaphas, but most of the roles are baritones. So I had to start stretching my voice in the other direction. So I'm still a bass baritone, but not so much profundo anymore.
Wow. And I have to tell you, I'm going to mention this later. You also have a beautiful CD with you and your wife, Lisa Smith. It's called Back to Broadway, and you have quite a collection here of songs. Why don't you talk a little bit about some of the songs here?
Well, let me throw this on first. I'm putting on eyeglasses.
See, I gave up. I just wear them all the time now.
Again, my background, I've done musical theater stage for over 35 years. I've done national tours with that. So that is my forte. I love any kind of performing, but that's my forte. And my first musical tour, national tour, was The Music Man. And I did that in 2001, 2002, and traveled around as Charlie Cowell and covered Harold Hill. Got to do Harold Hill multiple times. So one of the songs on here is You Got Trouble. And one thing I like is learning patter songs. So, and I found that once you learn a patter song, it can be 10 years, but they'll put on the music, and you've got those words. It took so long to learn those words, you don't forget those words.
Well, it's Fast and Furious.
So it is. And for anybody who knows The Music Man and Harold Hill and You Got Trouble, well, you got trouble, my friends, right here in River City, right? And it's just word after word after word, and you try to grab a breath whenever you can and just keep going. So we definitely had to put that on here because that was a big part of my life with that. As far as my songs on here also, there's a beautiful song from a show called Mac and Mabel about Mac Sennett and a relationship he had with silent film star Mabel Normand. And it's called I Won't Send Roses. And it's about he's falling in love with her, but she's a young starlet and he's an older guy, and he's set in his ways and he knows it can't work. Kind of a Star is Born type of thing. So this is where he's telling her, you're going to want all this, and I can't give it. I won't send roses. I am who I am, just to scare her away, so that she will move away from him, although it's very hard on him. And then my other big solo on this one is Old Man River from Showboat.
Actually, this might be a good time to play this. Now, so let's talk about Old Man River here in Showboat.
Again,
where'd you play that?
Well, obviously, I have not played this role that sings Old Man River. That's Joe in the musical. I have done a production of Showboat back in Orange County, the Orange County Performing Arts Center, where I was just one of the singer-dancers and ensemble people. But again, as a bass, this is a wonderful bass song that everybody knows and remembers. So this is one that I've had the privilege of adding to our Broadway show and singing whenever I can. People ask me to sing it every so often. So
excellent. Well, let's listen to Old Man River.
All right.
There's an old man called the Mississippi. That's the old man that I'd like to be. What does he care if the land got trouble? What does he care if the land ain't free? Old Man River, that old man River, he must know something, but don't say nothing. He keeps on rolling, he just keeps rolling along. He don't plant potatoes, he don't plant cotton, and them that plants 'em is soon forgotten. Old Man River, he just keep rolling. canopy, get a little drunk, and then lands I gets weary and sick of trying. I'm tired of living and scared of dying. But home and river, he just keeps rolling.
Wow, I have to tell you, Ron, that's a powerful song,
Thank you.
powerful voice. And again, this beautiful CD is Back to Broadway with Lisa Smith and Ron Smith. And then we've got songs for each of them and them together. So the best way to get this is, did you say Beyond Talent Productions.com?
Productions.com, correct.
Beyond Talent Productions, plural.com. And you can go and check this out and be a great Christmas gift for people,
Definitely,
too. It's
yeah.
just beautiful with that.
We have some nice duets together too. Suddenly Seymour and
Oh,
yeah. Do you love me from Fiddler on the Roof? A very fun one called Therapy for all those people who have ever been in a relationship. It's by Jonathan Larson, who wrote Rent. He wrote another off-Broadway show called Tick Tick Boom, and this song is called Therapy, and it's a couple who has been to therapy, and so this is the way you have an argument. And it's very funny. And again, anybody who's been to therapy, couples therapy, or even been in a relationship and has arguments, they relate to that. Everybody laughs at that song whenever we perform it.
Oh, that's neat. Well, let's talk a little bit before we have our first break here.
Okay.
I'd like to talk a little bit about when we first met and started talking, you were talking about Buffalo Bill. And when you told me that, and I'm looking at you, and I could just see you in that role so easily. So tell me, how do you get these roles like that?
It's called auditions.
Okay.
Yeah, and this was back in Buena Park, California, and this was 1991. And a brand new venue was opening right up from Knott's Berry Farm called Wild Bill's Wild West Dinner Extravaganza. And I was lucky enough to audition for it. And originally, when I auditioned, I was hired as the part-time person. The gentleman who they hired for the main role was an older actor and had the older Buffalo Bill look. They made it Wild Bill instead of Buffalo Bill, so you save on royalties and such like that. But he had the long white hair and long white goatee and long white, so he had that older. And the first little bit, I had to white up my hair, so I had to age myself. And originally, I was hired to do 2 days a week. He was going to do the other 5. As it started out, he was having some problems with it, so for the first 2 years, I think it was, I worked 6 days a week. And it was fun. It was Wild Bill visiting Miss Annie, kind of an Annie Oakley type character at her saloon. And so we had saloon dancers, boys and girls. We had specialty acts. We had Indians. We had ropers. We had magicians. We had jugglers, knife throwers, just all of this. And very interactive with the audience. The audience was out in the audience, eating at long tables, and beans and chicken and apple pie and all these things. And it was just the best of times. I did it total for about 5-6 years with a break in the middle. So
Wow.
I figure I've done at least 3,000 performances of Wild Bill. Yeah.
Good thing you were young enough to handle that. Wow.
Exactly. But it was, again, because it was an interactive show. We had our script, but when you're working with the audience, you never know what's going to happen. And that always kept it fresh. You're getting into those times like, oh, I have to go to work again. Then you start up the show, and somebody in the audience, a child or an adult or whatever, says something or does something, and it just livens you right back up there and keeps you in that moment. And it was a lot of fun.
So you have to learn to be quick on your feet, and with responses. Do you think that's what's helped you with your announcing as well as your emceeing on shows as well?
Oh, definitely. Prior to Wild Bills, for the most part, I did book shows,
Okay.
which would be Music Man, Oklahoma, all of the classic book shows and everything, the musicals. And again, because it was that interactive with the audience, I had to be able to start jumping in and out and ad-libbing and working with that. So that definitely helped me, so that now if I am doing an MC gig, if it's whether it's hosting a variety show or an awards program or something like that, I am able to quickly adapt or ad-lib whatever I need to do to make my way through and keep everything rolling, and hopefully keeping everybody interested and having a good time.
So hecklers wouldn't bother you at all then?
Hecklers are fun. Hecklers are fun. I remember one time at Wild Bill's, a little bit more than a heckler, as one guy threw a biscuit at me on stage. But I was cool. Out of the peripheral vision, I saw it coming at me, and I nonchalantly reached up and caught it with my hand and just continued on with what I was doing on stage. So that was one of those cool moments. But again, there's those times when you never know what's going to happen. One of my favorite stories from there is Ghost Riders in the Sky. I sang that, I don't know
Love that song.
how many times. And one day I got on stage, and the band starts playing dun 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 dun, and I walked on stage and hit my spot and went,
Oh.
and there were no lyrics in my head at all. But of course the song has started, so the entire song was and I'm mumbling through this entire song. The only lyrics were "Ghost Riders in the Sky." And I did my same blocking I always did, and it was so fun. Scared to death, obviously, but it was so fun watching the audience eating and everything. And they're like, "Da, da," and all of a sudden they start looking up, and they're looking at the speakers, and they're looking at me, and they're trying to, is something wrong with the sound system? I can't understand what he's saying. And of course, then came verse 2, and I still didn't have any of the lyrics, so the entire song was mumbled except for Ghost Riders in the Sky. And then, of course, you're scared to death that you did that once. The next night, you're going to go up on stage. So I looked over those lyrics, just scanned and until I had those. But that is one of my most memorable times up there. And again, talking about adapting and ad-libbing. Yes.
And saving the show.
And saving the show.
Okay.
Nobody knew.
With that happy note, we're going to listen to a word from our sponsors. This is Carolyn Jacobs with the Jacobs Ladder Show. This is Carolyn Jacobs with the Jacobs Ladder Show, and we're live here every Tuesday from 1 to 3 p.m. And Stephen has an hour. I have an hour. And on my hour, I have the delightful Ron Smith, and his lovely wife's in the studio too, Lisa Smith. And you can see her picture here on the copy of the CD. So you can go to BeyondTalentProductions.com. But there was one story that you missed that we talked about when we were talking about Wild Bill. So let's share this story.
Yes, there was one more big story that's memorable for Wild Bills. Again, I was Wild Bill for a total of about 8 years, I think it was. And so I had many co-stars through that time, many Miss Annies that I got to work with. One of them, a local performer, Corey Sachs. Amazing performer.
No, Corey.
And Corey was the full-time Miss Annie, and then they hired this little blonde to be her part-time person, kind of understudy. And that little blonde just happened to be my wife, Lisa, and she was my final Miss Annie at Wild Bills. So it turned out very well. Corey backed out because she was living in Las Vegas and working in California, and it was a little bit too much. So she moved back here with her husband, Bob, and Lisa took over as the full-time Miss Annie at that point. And we were friends for a long time, and then eventually it turned into a little bit more.
I love it. It's great. And you guys sound beautifully together because
you.
you've performed a lot of places in town together. And one of them was the Kenny Davidson on Tuscany on Friday nights. And you hosted with that show with Lisa. And it was great to hear. And you're also in the one group. I want to talk about, there's so many things I want to talk about. Let's go back quickly.
Okay.
Let's go back to 42nd Street because
Okay.
that is, if you go to emceelasvegas.com, and that's spelled EMCEE, lasvegas.com, you'll see a clip on YouTube that is so great, and that is you singing in 42nd Street, and it's a clips of different songs throughout the show, but I loved it. It was great.
That is definitely one of my favorite roles I ever got to perform, and I got to do that. At the start of that tour, we were actually 5 weeks in Japan. So that was fantastic. Got to travel all over Japan with that, and then traveled back another year and a half or so before I finished up with that as Julian Marsh, who's the director in the show. And it was just a wonderful time, and one role that I definitely wish I could have continued. I mean, I even talked to my producers on the tour about possibly bringing it to Las Vegas because that was a time when Las Vegas was getting all the different shows and casinos. And I'm like, hey, maybe we can bring it here. Everybody would love it. And they're like, no, we're tour producers. I'm like, okay, never mind.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? One thing I did want to mention, because our listening audience is from around the world and they all have different backgrounds, but this is an interesting thing that you got your degree. Georgia State University, you got a Bachelor of Science, and what was the degree in?
My degree is in criminal justice.
It's not
That's what
musical
every
theater.
performer's degree is in.
So, criminal justice, law enforcement administration. So, were you thinking about a fallback position or what?
It's one of those. I actually started at the University of Georgia out of high school with my major was ancient history and classical archaeology, and then I moved into voice. Then I moved into dance education. But because it was in the School of Education, and if I was going to dance, I was going to dance. I didn't want to teach it. I dropped out of school for 3 years and then went back to Georgia State in Atlanta and moved into criminal justice, which was another area of interest. I'm very eclectic in my interests. A little bit of a Renaissance man or jack of all trades. Because, again, that was another interest of mine, and possibly looking at going GBI, which was Georgia Bureau of Investigation, or FBI or whatever. But I lucked out in a way because I was doing so well. IBM got in touch with me, and they offered me an externship with them while I was still in school to work at division headquarters in Atlanta as internal security. And I worked with them, and after my first quarter, they said, we would like to hire you. We will go ahead and pay for the rest of your schooling.
Wow.
All you have to do is finish your schooling, but we would like to hire you. So after that, I worked for IBM full-time. I was their training officer. I rewrote all the training manuals and everything and did that. And then kind of leads into me coming to the West also. They had a big push to get people back out into the field. So they had a lot of people taking the exams for marketing reps and systems engineer. I took the exam for marketing rep, did very well, so that I could choose anywhere in the country I wanted to go. And I chose Costa Mesa, California.
Excellent place.
Yes, yes. Moved out to California. And it's funny because for my training, I would go back to Atlanta. So I would go home for my training after going out to California. But I hadn't performed in about 5 years. I did just a local community show at Newport Theater Arts Center, a Cole Porter musical, and I turned in my resignation because I told my boss I can't sell boxes to people the rest of my life. This is what I do. And it was very scary for me because my manager was not a real people person. And I was like, here's my resignation. And I expected him to go crazy. But he said, I expected this. I was just hoping you'd stick around later. I'm like, what? But he had come see me perform. And he saw what the passion I had, and obviously that I was good enough to have that passion. And so that was it. It's like, I was just hoping we would keep you a little bit longer before you did this, but.
And you obviously have the talent, and thank you for doing that, because
thank you.
we get to enjoy you and get to enjoy your performances and your songs. And like I said, you can go and listen to his YouTube and actually just go and do some different searching. Now, there's also some video of you guys at the Smith Center with the Shades of Sinatra, and I want to get that in real quick before our next break. So
Definitely. We don't have the true video up on that. We were lucky enough. We were performing at the Suncoast, and somebody saw us performing there that worked for Yamaha, and videotaped us and sent it to headquarters in Japan, because Yamaha has started sponsoring local performers once or twice a year here at the Cabaret Jazz at the Smith Center. Last year, Chadwick Johnson and Laura Schaefer were there, and she saw us and sent to them, it's like, I've got our next group. They're amazing. And within about a week, we got word back Yamaha would love to sponsor Shades of Sinatra at Cabaret Jazz at the Smith Center. And they took care of everything. They brought in all of their people, all of their light, their sound, their video, everything. They were the nicest people. We got to do our show in that. If you haven't been to Cabaret Jazz at the Smith Center, you have to go. It's a wonderful concert recital room. And we got to perform there. And it's just a dream come true for us. We had Shades of Sinatra has been around for about 9 years. We were at the Clarion for almost 3.5 years on a regular basis until they tore it down. So we're not there anymore. But so Shades has gone more into corporate work, and it's my wife, myself, two other gentlemen singing, celebrating the music that Frank Sinatra sang. Now, we're not Rat Pack, we're not impersonators, but we're singing the music and telling stories about Frank. And again, playing with the audience, very interactive with the audience, and just being ourselves up on stage. So we're excited about that, doing more corporate. We will be at Italian American Club next Wednesday, December 9th at 8 p.m., doing our full show in celebration of Frank's 100th birthday, which is actually on the 12th. But we will be at the Italian American Club on Sahara on the 9th. Tickets are $25. And I don't know all the numbers and everything, but you can get in touch with the
But you start at 8 o'clock,
Club.
and it's great. And I will tell you, Italian American Club also has phenomenal food. You do not have to be a member to attend. Just go ahead. You can get the tickets from you guys or from Italian American Club.
You can website IAC.com, I think. IACVegas.com. Thank you, Lisa.
Excellent.
You can get them there, or if you happen to be down by the Italian American Club, you can go down and purchase them there also.
And fabulous, fabulous food there. And your other two performers, we had one of them on our show already, Carmine Mandia.
Oh, good.
And he's been on our show, and we have Ryan Baker coming up in a few months when the CD comes out. But you're in great company. You guys have fun. You look fabulous on stage and sound great. So I love that part. Now, are we able to listen to? Not yet. Okay, we have another thing we're waiting to listen to, but it's going to be a few more minutes. Before we go to our next break, let's talk about. You have been in so many regional musical theaters, and let's talk about Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. I love the film. And so you played one of the brothers.
I was Adam.
Oh, you were Adam.
I was Adam Punaby.
Oh, excellent.
Yep, I was Howard Keel.
Yes, for those who saw the movie, yes, that is neat. I mean, you're in some really famous shows, and we're talking about. Well, let's also talk about the Little Whorehouse in Texas that was played at the Plaza Hotel here in downtown Las Vegas, and you got to play the sheriff role.
I did. I was Ed Earl Dodd. For those of you who know the musical or at least saw the movie with Burt Reynolds and Dolly Parton, I was Burt Reynolds. We don't look anything alike, but that's the role that I played.
And he doesn't sing like you either. So.
Well, yeah, no, they cut the song out of the movie because Burt didn't quite do the song, but I got to sing Good Old Girl, which is from the original Broadway musical.
Yes.
And it was a wonderful production. We had a great cast. as with most any show that a performer's in, it didn't last long enough. we want them to just go on and on.
It's interesting because, like, you played 3,000 shows with Wild Bill, and you're talking about all these other ones that you're playing with. So you're actually, you're so involved with the show. I mean, don't you like a break, or you really prefer to have them continue?
No, I mean, you like the break, but again, this is what we do for our living. This is how we pay our bills, so you don't want too big of a break, definitely.
Okay.
And it is what I have a passion for. My biggest passion is actually, at this point in time, using my voice. As you mentioned, I MC, I voice over, I do live performance, and anytime I get to use my voice and make people smile and laugh, or depending on what it is, cry, or when I was a Judd in Oklahoma, they booed me, and that knew I was doing a good Judd.
That's right.
So just getting that reaction. I've done film and television also, but I always go back to stage and live performance, because with film and television, obviously it's more money, but you do it over and over and over again until you get it just right. With live performance, you get one shot with an audience, and you know immediately if you got it just right. And again, with anything can happen with live shows, so you've got to have that adaptability and that flexibility to just keep on going with that. So I much prefer the live show, and again, it's one of those that I would love to have the long term of the show. But there are times when you do need to mix it up a little bit. I mean, I have friends who have played the same roles, again, for years and years and years in various shows, and some of them will go from the same role in a show to the next production of that show someplace else, to the next production, and that's wonderful. I like to have a little bit more variety in what I do, but. If like with Julian Marsh, I could have definitely played him at least for a couple of 3 more years, I think. And I had some amazing talent with me. My first co-star on that, Mara Davi, has been on Broadway multiple times. She's appeared on television in multiple things. She's amazing. When I first met her and auditioned with her, I'm like, I will see your name up in lights. And some of the other talents, Kyle Dean Massey also, who has just had a nice arc on Nashville, the television show Nashville, and just wonderful talent. And that's the other thing about performing. You meet so many people and so many levels and so many backgrounds, and it's just interesting. And you get to travel, you get to meet people like you and your husband when you perform. And I just don't know of anything better than that.
Oh, I love it. It's great to hear the stories, and our listening audience love to know about your experiences that you've gone through. We're going to take our second break here and listen to a word from our sponsors. This is Carolyn Jacobs with the Jacobs Ladder Show, and we are live here every Tuesday from 1 to 3 p.m., and we'll be back in just a few minutes to hear more about Ron Smith. This is Carolyn Jacobs, and we have the very fabulous Ron Smith here in our studio telling his story and all of his experiences in musical theater, as well as being an announcer in town, as well as an MC. And he and his wife has this fabulous CD. If you go to emceelasvegas.com or beyondtalentproductions.com, and you can find the CD, and it's great music. And we're actually going to play something else that you brought in, and so let's do a quick setup of what this is.
Okay. Well, it's that time of year, and I have that kind of big, bassy voice. Again, with the bass voice, one of my favorite songs was You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch. Thurl Ravenscroft is one of my idols. He was the original voice of that, and if you've ever been to Disneyland in the Haunted Mansion or anything like that, he's there singing and talking, and just a big, full voice. And I got to meet him one time before he passed. He was also the voice of Tony the Tiger. It's great. That was Thurl Ravenscroft. So You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch is one of my favorite songs. We'll go ahead and play it, and then I'll tell you a little story after that if we can.
Let's go ahead and hear this.
It's just a short snippet.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are a heel. You're as cuddly as a cactus. You're as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch. You're a bad banana with a greasy black peel.
All right, so that was just kind of a demo version I made for a website, a voiceover website that I did, and so you set up a profile, and people go to your profile and listen to your voice, different styles and everything, and then they send you. They want you to submit an audition for whatever voiceover work they have. So I set up my profile. This was one of the demos that I put up, and I went back to that website a couple days later, and it was gone. And so I got in touch with the website. I'm like, one of my demos is missing. Well, you have to use your own work. That is my work. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, I recorded that in a friend's studio in his home. That is me singing. Well, so that's where it ended. They never put it back on, but they thought it was Thurl Ravenscroft, and that I was using a recording of him on mine. And I actually sent a copy of that to my mom, and my mom also thought it was Thurl Ravenscroft. So I am very flattered that I could do something like that. Like I say, he's one of my idols with that big voice.
Oh my gosh. You'd be a perfect spokesperson, which is why you are for a lot of different things. So if any corporate client would like to get a hold of you, if they go to beyondtalentproductions.com, is that the best way to get a hold of you?
To get in touch with me, it's better at emcee, EMCEE, LasVegas.com. That is more mine. Beyond Talent Productions is actually my wife's and my company.
Okay.
And if you want to hire the two of us to perform, that's our favorite thing to do. Obviously, I have all my MC work and do different things, stage work. My wife is an amazing jazz singer, and we both work with Shades of Sinatra, but our favorite thing is when we get to perform together.
And it's amazing because I see on Facebook, and you're on Facebook a lot, you and your beautiful wife, is that you're also doing some caroling now? I love it.
We are caroling.
This is the season.
It is definitely. We both caroled back in California years ago and had wonderful experience there. And then most of our time here in Las Vegas, we just did whatever gigs in December. And then starting a couple of years ago, I got into a caroling company again. And Lisa joined me last year, and we're with a different caroling company this year. But just again, it's nice to go around and help people get into the spirit. There are some people who don't want to be in the spirit.
Yes.
And we run into them every once in a while, especially when we would do restaurant gigs, and you go up and the first table's like, "Oh, you're so okay, yay, okay," and then you walk to the next table and go, "No, thank you, go." You're like, "Oh, Merry Christmas." But wonderful songs, obviously the traditional songs, and then all the fun songs, Rudolph and Let It Snow and Winter Wonderland. And we've been able to work with a lot of different arrangements, very fun arrangements with them. So, again, just being able to use our voices and put smiles on people's faces, that's very big, and especially this time of year.
I think that is so great. Going back to the Shades of Sinatra, I noticed that your musical director, Ned Mills, he's also been a guest on our show, and he actually went to school at the same time that Uli Geisendorfer did in Denton, Texas. So I thought that was kind of an interesting, and they never knew each other because the school was that big. So it's interesting.
But they know each other now.
Yeah, they know each other now. And John Plows is on your drums. He's coming on our show in a couple of months.
Good.
So yes,
it was actually his wife who works for Yamaha that got us Cabaret Jazz.
Oh my God. Isn't it great with the connections? I've noticed that with Vegas people more so than Los Angeles era, is that everyone's very helpful and wanting to share and help each other.
It is a very small, big town as far as the performers, and for the most part, everybody does really try to help each other. If there's, I know that if there's something comes up for us that we can't do, but we know somebody else that can do it, we gladly pass it on, because that's what you do.
Yes.
And, we've had the privilege that we have so many, musicians here, amazing musicians here. And we've had the privilege of working with them and, and just jumping between the different musicians. And we're definitely blessed here in Las Vegas.
I tell you, it is so exciting to see you and your wife performing around and what you're doing. Now, you've also done a lot of MC announcing work for corporate. And I mean, can we mention names at all?
Sure.
Lots of casinos here. We're talking Cosmopolitan, the stations, Aliante, MGM. We're talking Wynn. we're talking Boy. We're talking a lot of different casinos. But you've also done announcing for like Southern Wine and Spirits and Home Depot and Arbonne when they had their convention here. You were working with them.
Arbonne was fun. We did their big awards presentation, and they had, 200-300 people getting awards. So I had to go through all of those names. Heather Burdett, who is another local talent, was my counterpart with that. And we were just boom, boom, back and forth. And some of the names, luckily with Arbonne, it was very nice because they wrote them out phonetically for us.
Excellent.
Otherwise, you just look at a name and you go,
I know.
And when I'm doing tournaments, I apologize all the time if I'm getting ready to name a lot of names, because they'll come up and I'll just say, ladies and gentlemen, I do my best to pronounce your names. I apologize for any mispronunciation, and this is what it says to me. So, yeah.
And I think it's fascinating with your voiceover that you do is so neat. I mean, because you've got on stage, you have the face, the body, the movements, and the voice to give a performance. But in voice, it's just audio, so you have to put your character all in your voice.
You do. You definitely do. And voiceover is a wonderful area of performance. It is not an easy area to get into. And it's something because everybody has a voice, obviously. But if you can get into voiceover, it's to me, it's very rewarding. I would love to at some point get into animation voiceover too, with different characters along those lines.
I could see that, definitely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Being the big bad guy or something, I don't know. So
rather than the sweet, cute little guy. So
exactly.
Right.
It's more fun playing the bad guy than the good guy. I'm the good guy every day, 24/7. So the bad guy every once in a while.
But I mean, with your smile, you are the good guy.
Thank
See,
you.
that's the best part about everything that you're doing. So, so your next gig is coming up at the Italian American Club, and what do you have after that?
I have my tournaments and Sam's Town. Yeah, we'll be at
excellent.
Sam's Town this Sunday. Lisa and I will be hosting the variety show this Sunday at Sam's Town. That's at 1:00. We're doing a sock hop themed show.
Oh, great! And get there early because the place fills up.
It does.
And
then on the 20th, it's very fun. It's the big Christmas show where they bring back a number of the hosts that they've used through the year, and we all sit up on stage and we all get up and sing a number, and it shows how everybody is supportive to everybody else.
Oh my gosh! Well, we only have about a minute left. What would you like to share with our audience?
Ooh, that's the hardest part of the interview right there.
Well, I tell you, the CD is phenomenal. Love
Thank
it.
you.
The music in it is great, and the fact that you have performed with a lot of local performers here in town. You're very gracious in helping other people, and you and your wife make a great, great team. Thank you for being on our show.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for asking.
Well, thank you, Ron. And this is Carolyn Jacobs with the Jacobs Ladder Show, where we're live here every Tuesday from 1 to 3 p.m. And Lisa Smith will be coming on our show in a month or so we just need to nail down the date, and you get to hear her side of the story on the other part of this. This is Carolyn Jacobs with the Jacobs Ladder Show. Stephen will be up for the next hour, and we'll see you next week.